Primary election day in Florida is just about 3 weeks away.
It's time to meet the candidates.
This original program is provided as a public service by WSRE, the League of Women Voters, and Pensacola State College.
Good evening and welcome to Rally 2012. I'm Drexel Gilbert with WSRE TV.
And I'm Sandra Averhart with WUWF Public Media.
Now, this is the second of 3 nights of Rally 2012 election coverage on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast.
Rally 2012 allows you the opportunity to meet the candidates from primary races in Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties, as well as candidates in the state races that impact these counties.
Now, the spotlight tonight is on the races in Santa Rosa County. We will begin with the race for Clerk of the Court, followed by County Commission Districts 1, 3, and 5.
And we will then move to the school board races in Districts 2 and 4. And following that, you will hear from candidates for Santa Rosa County Sheriff, Superintendent of Schools, and Supervisor of Elections.
Tomorrow night, we will cover state races for Public Defender, First Judicial Court, for State Representative Districts 2 and 3, and for Circuit Judge Group 15.
Also on Thursday, we will cover Escambia County races, including Clerk of Court, also Sheriff, County Commissions 1, 3, and 5, and ECUA Districts 1, 3, and 5.
The questions that will be put before the candidates this evening have been provided to us by the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay Area.
The candidates have not seen the questions. They will each be asked the same questions, and they will have 45 seconds to respond. Now, following the question and answer session, each candidate will have an additional 45 seconds to deliver a closing statement.
It's time now to get started with the questions for the candidates, and we're going to begin tonight with the race for Clerk of the Court in Santa Rosa County. There are 2 Republican candidates in this race. There is no Democratic candidate because this is a position that affects the entire population of Santa Rosa County. This is what is known as a universal race. That means that every registered voter in the county can vote in this race regardless of their party affiliation. Also, because this is a universal race, it will be decided by plurality. That means that the top vote getter on August 14th will be the winner in this race. Our candidates are seated tonight in alphabetical order, and the first candidate that we will introduce to you tonight is Mary M. Johnson, and Ms. Johnson resides in the city of Milton. The second candidate in the race is Donnie Don Spencer, and Mr. Spencer is also from Milton. And it's time now for the questions, and we are going to begin this evening with question number 1, posed to you first, Ms. Johnson. And the question is, following a reduction of $30 million statewide in the budget for clerks of the court, the governor has announced that local clerks will be able to keep more of the fines that they collect. Please discuss for us whether this allows clerks to plan efficiently and effectively for the upcoming budget year. Ms. Johnson.
Anytime we're allowed to keep more of the funds, it will help the office, of course. We are funded by the fees and fines that are collected in the county, and we send it to the state, and they in turn return the funds to Santa Rosa County. So yes, that will help and benefit the county clerk's office quite a bit.
All right, thank you. And now the question goes to you, Mr. Spencer. There's a reduction of $30 million statewide in the budget for clerks of court, and the governor has announced that local clerks are going to be able to keep more of the fines that they collect. And we are asking you tonight to please discuss whether you believe that this option is going to allow clerks to plan effectively for the upcoming budget year.
I believe it will. It'll allow the clerk's office to spend that money wisely. Whenever the state gets involved with telling you how to spend your money and holds money back, it's always detrimental to the department. But as they pass money back down to us, we'll be able to determine where we need to spend that rather than the state telling us where to spend it. And we'll spend it efficiently so the office runs smoothly and the records and everything are recorded properly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spencer. Question number 2 tonight in this race, and again, these questions are provided to us by the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay Area. Question number 2 says that the clerk's office has oversight of the finances of Santa Rosa County. What changes, if any, would you make in handling this responsibility? And the question first to you, Mr. Spencer.
One of the things I'd like to do as a comptroller of the county's money is I want to post the checks at the county commissioners where they spend the money. The clerk writes the checks for the county commissioners. I'm going to post those checks on our webpage so we'll have open and transparent government. I want to design a program so that you'll be able to search by vendor, dollar amount, and service provided to find out where those checks went. Then I want to market that program after we register it and trademark it and sell it to other counties throughout the country and bring some income into our county.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spencer. And now we move to you, Ms. Johnson, and ask the question to you. The clerk's office, of course, has the oversight of the finances in Santa Rosa County. What changes, if any, would you plan in handling the responsibility?
I plan to continue the service we give to the public. The records are open, they are transparent. If someone needs to see a record, they're available at any time from 8 to 4:30 every day. The people in the office are very willing and able to help. I have not made any plans to put the copies of the checks on the web page at this point. I do have the daily check, the check register monthly is on the web page, and you can search and find the expenditures of the county on the web page.
All right, thank you, Ms. Johnson. And again, if you've just joined us, you are watching Rally 2012, where you are meeting candidates for races in Santa Rosa County for the primary in August. August 14th will be the primary election date in Florida. We are posing questions now to the candidates for Clerk of the Court in Santa Rosa County. And we're up to question number 3. The Office of the Clerk is charged with handling the administrative responsibilities for the general public. Given that, do you believe that this office should be nonpartisan? And the question goes to you first, Ms. Johnson.
I'm going to be honest with you, I've not put a lot of emphasis on that. I'm not aware. It's always, I guess it's always been, is what you'd say, it's always been a partisan race. It seems to have worked. I'm not against it being nonpartisan if that's what the voters in the county prefer.
All right, thank you. And to you, Mr. Spencer, now, as the clerk of the court is charged with the administrative responsibilities for the general public, do you believe that this position should be nonpartisan?
This position is a constitutional position, and all our constitutional positions that we have in the county are partisan positions. I do not believe it should be nonpartisan. I believe it should be by parties.
All right, thank you very much. And now we go to question number 4. With rapid advances in technology, what changes do you foresee in the operation of this Office of Clerk of the Court? And the question goes first to you, Mr. Spencer.
I see the clerk's office going to a paperless system. I believe everything's going to get modernized, where we're going to scan all our documents in to where everything will be on a computer. You'll be able to see all those documents. The judges will be able to see those documents. It's in the process of being done now, and it's a step for the future. It's going to make things more efficient. We're going to save money by saving paper costs. We're going to save filing costs on our files that we'd have to put the papers in. Our records and our archives office needs to be scanned into the records, so if something ever happens to them, we'll have them in a backup system. And it's very important that we keep track of all those records through electronic system.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spencer. Ms. Johnson, technology is rapidly advancing. What do you foresee as the future of this office and with regards to the rapid advancements in technology?
I'm very excited about this process. We are e-filing through the e-portal. The records are scanned in. Court cases, the attorneys can actually file them in the evening after we've closed the office, and we'll have them the next morning. The records are scanned already, and the judges can use those copies on their desk. A lot of the older records at the archives are on microfilm. We have images from 2004 to the present.
All right, thank you, Ms. Johnson. And we're up to the last question for the race of Clerk of the Court in Santa Rosa County, and it will be posed first to Ms. Johnson this evening. Is there an additional issue of importance that you would like to present to the viewing audience of Rally 2012? I
think conservatism and is very important in the clerk's office. we have been very conservative in all the aspects of the office. I've lost several people because of funding, and we're doing much more with less, and I intend to continue in that realm.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Spencer, is there an additional issue of what importance that you believe that you would like to present to the viewing audience of Rally 2012?
Yes, ma'am. I believe we need to rein in our spending. The clerk's office has 3 chief deputy clerks in the clerk's office that make approximately $95,000 apiece. 2 of those chief deputy clerks are fixing to retire. Through a normal retirement and attrition, I'm not going to fill those positions. That'll save the county $250,000 a year in salary and benefits. That's $1.5 million. I'll save the county in 5 years. Hopefully can keep us from having to raise taxes or offset any tax increase that the county commissioners may have to do.
All right, Ms. Johnson has raised her hand, and that means that you would like to rebut. You have 30 seconds to deliver a rebuttal, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I would like to say the 3 chief deputies, that is a title. They actually do functions in the office. One of them is over the IT department and also over the courts. One is over all the administrative office functions as well as the archives and the outlying offices. One is the director of finance. It's a full-time job. Those people are needed in the clerk's office, and I just wanted to make that clear.
And Mr. Spencer has raised your hand, and you are allowed a rebuttal to that. 30 seconds, sir.
There are 3 chief deputy clerks. It can be called a title, whatever you want. We're going to have to learn to do more with less. I don't have a problem with the duties they have to do. It's a salary they're having to be paid. One of them has 14 people reporting to them. I don't know of any business in Santa Rosa County that has 111 employees with 3 top bosses making $95,000 a year. We're going to have to rein in our spending like everybody else is having to do and do more with less.
All right. And that now does conclude the questions and answers for the candidates for Clerk of the Court in Santa Rosa County. Now, each candidate will have 45 seconds to make a closing statement. We began the questions with Ms. Johnson. Mr. Spencer, we will begin the closing statements with you, and you have 45 seconds, sir.
I'm Donnie Don Spencer, and I'd appreciate your vote on August 14th. I plan to reorganize the department, save $250,000 a year in salaries and benefits. I'm going to open up the books where you'll be able to see the commissioner's checks that I issue on the web page. You'll be able to search them by dollar amount, by service provided, and by provider that we wrote those checks to. You'll be able to research that, study it, and see where your county's money's going. And I appreciate your vote on August 14th. My website is spencerforclerkofcourt.com.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. And now 45 seconds to you, Ms. Johnson, for your closing statement.
Thank you. I would like to thank the viewing public for allowing me to share this time with them. I'm humbled by the trust that the citizens in Santa Rosa County has put in me over the years. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve you as your clerk of circuit court. It's my goal to maintain the clerk's office as an effective office for the county government. I will continue to serve you with conservatism and integrity. I've served as your clerk for 18 years. My goal is to continue serving if it is your will. My experience makes me uniquely qualified to serve as your clerk. I also want to thank the clerk's office employees for all the help they do. They're dedicated to their work and they serve very conscientiously, and they make my job easier. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, candidates.
And as we wrap up the first question and answer session, we want to remind you that you are watching Rally 2012 here on WSRE TV, where candidates in the upcoming primary have the opportunity to answer questions about some of the issues. The questions for tonight's races were prepared by the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay Area.
We have several more races ahead of us this evening. We will return in just a moment, but for now, let's take a look at those upcoming races.
There is nothing more important to our democratic process than having an informed electorate voting on Election Day. Good evening. I'm Ed Meadows, President of Pensacola State College, thanking you for tuning into Rally 2012. a joint presentation of the League of Women Voters, WSRE TV, and Pensacola State College. Rally allows you the opportunity to watch and listen as this election year slate of candidates answer the tough questions concerning the needs of our community and state. WSRE, a service of Pensacola State College, is proud to bring this program to you as a public service. And as always, we invite your comments and suggestions about how we can further fulfill our community obligations. Let's all remember the importance of participating in the governance process by voting in this upcoming election.
And welcome back to Rally 2012 on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast. Rally allows you the opportunity to hear from the candidates in Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties.
Tonight, we're focusing on Santa Rosa County. The candidates will be asked a series of questions provided to us by the Pensacola Bay Area League of Women Voters. And they are asked the same questions, and each candidate has 45 seconds to respond. We are now moving into the County Commission races tonight, and first up is County Commission District 1. There are 3 Republican candidates. There is a write-in candidate in this race, so that means that the winner of this race in the primary will face that candidate in the general election. Now, the 3 candidates in the primary race for County Commission District 1 in Santa Rosa County are in alphabetical order. Mark Cotton, first up. Mark Cotton is from Pace. Also, Tom Stewart. Mr. Stewart is also from Pace. And Jim Williamson, who is from Milton. Gentlemen, welcome to you. It is now time for your first question, and we will begin first with Mr. Cotton. Our question: what is the best approach for handling the county's economic development? Would that be continuing Santa Rosa Economic Alliance, establishing a county department or rather forming a regional approach with Escambia County? If you'd like me to read that again, I will.
Please.
All right. What is the best approach for handling the county's economic development? Continuing Santa Rosa Economic Alliance. B, establishing a county department or forming a regional approach with Escambia County.
I think for the interim, for the time being, what the commissioners have done of late in bringing the department in under the control of the commission for the short term is best. I think ultimately a public-private partnership is our best type of entity to construct. The previous entity worked well for 18 years as a public-private partnership, and I think in the long run that's what we need to strive to achieve. But for the moment, until confidence is restored, it is important to keep it under the commission.
All right, thank you. Same question to Mr. Stewart. What do you think is the best approach for handling the county's economic development? Would that be continuing Santa Rosa Economic Alliance, establishing a county department, or forming a regional approach with Escambia County?
I believe there's been a strong disconnect between the county government and our business community, our business leaders, and we must first reestablish trust. I think team or the alliance needs to understand what their mission would be, and the county needs to explain, the county leadership needs to explain what they expect out of that alliance. At this point in time, I don't think we can consolidate with Escambia County because I don't think we have a system in place right now that can do that. We need strong new leadership and a new partnership with our business community.
All right, thank you. And finally, this first question to Mr. Williamson. What do you think is the best approach for handling the county's economic development? Would that be continuing on with the Santa Rosa Economic Alliance, establishing a county department, or forming a regional approach with Escambia County?
I think that the confidence has been lost by the citizens of our county and by the commission with the alliance that's there now, and I think we need to bring it under the county for accountability, and then in the future we need to hire a director who will work with the private sector to build economic development in our county.
All right, thank you. Moving on now to our second question. In terms of location and a funding source, how would you address the question of a new courthouse for Santa Rosa County? And that question will go first to Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. As I served from 2004 to 2008 as the District 1 Commissioner, I brought up the idea of a courthouse many times and tried to develop consensus. We were not able to do so. But the courthouse needs to be centrally located. It doesn't need to be a Taj Mahal. We need to find a revenue source, which I believe the only one available to our residents now is a sales tax increase of 1 cent for a short period of time to generate the funds necessary. But it's going to have to go on a referendum, let the people decide. I would support moving the courthouse issue forward.
All right, and to Mr. Williamson next, how would you address the question of a new courthouse for Santa Rosa County in terms of funding and location?
The location, I would like to see it kept in the county seat or close to that area. And as far as the funding, the only way I see possible is a 1 cent sales tax that would sunset once the courthouse is paid for.
All right, thank you. And now this question to Mr. Cotton. We're talking about the question of a new courthouse for Santa Rosa County and how you would address that in terms of funding and location.
I think the funding, I think it is pretty well understood, and as I talk to people in the public, believe it or not, the majority are ready to do something about a courthouse. I think most assume it will be a sales tax. The current rate in Santa Rosa County is 6.5%. I've not heard it discussed much. Perhaps a half-cent sales tax would work there. We'd still be, we'd be at a flat 7. It's very little change on lives, and it may take a bit longer to pay for the courthouse, but I think it would, given the current economic times, it would be easier to accept. As to location, central part of the county near Avalon, I think is best.
All right, thank you. We're now to question number 3 for our Santa Rosa County Commission District 1 candidates. And the question, again, these questions come from the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay Area. The question is, please give your opinion of whether the Commission's long-term development policy is strong enough to prevent flooding in areas where development is being considered. And Mr. Williamson, you get the first shot at this question.
I think that it is at the moment. I think where we have a problem is in the past it's not been strong enough, and those are the areas that are affected the most. But what we have in place now is certainly strong enough to take care of any development in our county.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Cotton, you are next. The question, really, it just asks your opinion of whether the county's long-term development policy is strong enough to prevent flooding in areas where development is now being considered.
I think the Land Development Code, as Mr. Williamson stated, for new developments is proper and has been working well. I think an overall plan would be better, a broader look at communities rather than just the projects themselves. And there are a lot of older subdivisions, older areas that still have problems, and as we've seen lately. And I think a broad overview and a system that works together would be in order.
All right, thank you. Now to Mr. Stewart, your opinion on whether the county's long-term development policy is strong enough to prevent flooding in areas where development is being considered.
I think the policy is strong enough to handle development in the future. I think we've got issues with stormwater drainage from lack of maintenance, and we've got to figure out a way to add funding some way or another to our road and bridge department and trying to maintain our stormwater ditches a little better.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to question 4, and we just want to remind you that if you're just joining us, you're watching Rally 2012 here on WSRE TV, and our questions come from the Pensacola Bay Area League of Women Voters. Question number 4, Santa Rosa County is expected to receive millions of dollars as part of the BP settlement. What are your priorities for expenditures of these funds? And Mr. Cotton, we're back to you.
The BP tragedy was terrible, and this is some token of restoration here. As to my priorities, obviously it being an environmental disaster, we need to address the ecosystems. As the acronym reads, resources and ecosystem sustainability, those things need to be addressed first, but the rest of that acronym revolves around tourism opportunities and revived economies. Most of the BP lawsuits are having to do with incomes and and businesses that have lost money. So we can't forget that part. That is very important. I believe the state will take care of the environmental stuff.
All right, you done? Okay.
Heard the bell, I'm sorry.
All right. All right, we're talking about the BP settlement, millions of dollars expected to come to Santa Rosa. Mr. Stewart, to you next. What are your priorities for expenditure of these funds?
I think the BP funds are going to be defined a lot by the federal and state regulations that are going to come along with them. If there are funds that we have discretion over, I think we got to look at the beach renourishment. We've got to look at the South End tourism industry that was devastated by the BP oil disaster and see if we can adjust there. And I think we've got to put a lot of that money aside because we don't know the full extent today of the ramifications from the BP oil spill.
All right, thank you. And finally, to Mr. Williamson, what are your priorities for the millions of dollars in BP settlement monies that will be coming to Santa Rosa?
I believe that a lot of it could be used for economic infrastructure. We have a lot of properties that we don't have the monies available to develop, and I think this would be a great way to do it. I also think that we need to look for the beach renourishment in Navarre Beach. We could use some of the money there, and also for our natural resources.
All right, thank you. Did you?
I was just going to say that I think also that we need to be very careful in where we spend this money, and then there needs to be complete transparency to our citizens.
All right, thank you. All right, question number 5. This is the final question for our candidates for County Commission District 1, and it's referenced garbage collection. Garbage collection in the southern part of Santa Rosa County is handled by private franchises. What changes, if any, would you suggest for garbage collection in the northern part of the county? And Mr. Stewart, you get the first crack.
Actually, during the 04 to 08 time that I served, we established the waiting period or the time limit for that southern garbage collection plan. I would certainly support it for the northern end. I think we probably at one point started that clock ticking. There's a requirement to advertise that for a 3-year period of time. And certainly the south end looks like it's working pretty well. So I would support a move to do that with the taxpayer consent, with the user consent in the northern half of our county.
All right, thank you. Garbage collection handled by private franchises in the southern part of the county. The question is, what changes, if any, would you suggest for garbage collection in the northern part? Mr. Williamson.
And since I've been on the commission for the last 3 years, we actually put the notice that in 3 years we would be able to do the same thing in the north end of the county, and I think it would be a great thing. It would be less traffic on our roads, less wear and tear, and also it's very good for recycling. A lot of people participate more when they don't have to go to a recycling unit or a county designated area. You can actually do it there at the curbside.
All right, thank you. And finally, what changes, if any, would you suggest for garbage collection in the northern part of the county? And that's compared to the use of private franchises in the southern part. Mr. Cotton.
I think competition needs to be allowed to work its path. I believe the free market and the free enterprise works well. Prices remain competitive that way. I understand there are some subdivisions where you have several trucks coming and going, and when you have different carriers, but at the same time, I think the citizen benefits by the competition in pricing.
All right, thank you. That concludes our questions, and it is now time for closing statements from each of our candidates for County Commission District 1. And our candidates have 45 seconds to make those closing statements. And for our closing, we will begin with Mr. Williamson. We'll start with you.
Thank you. I am Jim Williamson, your District 1 County Commissioner. My wife Paulette and I reside at 4351 Berry Hill Road in Pace, where we've lived for the last 24 years. We're active members of Emmanuel Baptist Church. I have owned and operated Williamson Electrical Company on Avalon Boulevard for the past 36 years. The District 1 Commission race is about deciding who you want to help manage your tax dollars for the next 4 years. My only promise to you has been that I would be fair to everyone and that I'd work for you, the taxpayer, to make sure you get the most for your money, not special interest groups. Please keep proven, conservative, common sense leadership working for you. Re-elect me, Jim Williamson, as your District 1 County Commissioner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And it is now Mr. Cotton's turn for a final statement, 45 seconds.
I am Mark Cotton, 48 years old. I'm a lifelong Santa Rosa County resident. I spent the first 24 years of my life in the south end of the county where I grew up. Ultimately met my wife and moved across the bay and spent the next 24 years there. Her name is Cindy. We have 3 daughters, 4 grandchildren, a couple of sons-in-laws. Her parents and my parents both are with us and all live in Santa Rosa County. So I see a spectrum from one end of age groups to the other, fixed income, and our parents trying to live as retirees there. I served on the Santa Rosa County Zoning Board of Adjustments for 13 years, helped resolve thousands of problems with residents there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cotton. And now, Mr. Stewart, your opportunity for a closing statement.
Thank you. And I am Tom Stewart, and I'm a retired Army Major. I served 26 years. I'm a small business owner. I served as your commissioner from 2004 to 2008. I was elected just days before Hurricane Ivan devastated our county. During that initial 3 or 4 years, we had many, many tough decisions to make to try to bring our quality of life back to what you, the citizen, expects. I've always had a can-do, positive attitude, and I think today we've got tough decisions coming, and we need a positive, can-do attitude in the District 1 County Commission seat. Attitude is everything, and I'd appreciate your vote on August 14th.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
And that does conclude our look at County Commission District 1 race for Santa Rosa County. But Sandra, we have a lot more ahead for this evening, and right now we are going to take a look at the races that are still ahead here on Rally 2012 on WSRE.
Thank you for watching Rally 2012 on WSRE TV. I'm Mary Blackwell, President of the League of Women Voters of Okaloosa County. For over 20 years, the Okaloosa and Pensacola Bay Area Leagues have provided questions for events like tonight's forum as a service to our local communities. The success of our democracy depends on active participation by informed citizens, which begins with voting. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, which means we don't support or oppose parties or candidates. This rally is one way for us to make accurate and nonpartisan information available to voters. You can also contact us for explanations of amendments, merit retention of judges, and other ballot issues. We invite women and men to attend our public events and to join us as members of the League. Please see our websites for more information or to contact us. And please, remember to be an informed voter this year.
And welcome back to Rally 2012 as we count down to the Florida primary election, which of course is coming up in just about 3 weeks on August the 14th. Of course, Rally is a tradition and it gives you the opportunity to hear from the candidates about the issues that may be on your mind as you head into that primary election. We have been highlighting throughout the evening Santa Rosa County candidates. We talked about Okaloosa County residents last night, and candidates for Escambia County will be with us tomorrow evening. Right now, we are going to talk more about the County Commission races in Santa Rosa County, and we're going to go to the candidates in District 3. There are 4 Republican candidates in this race. Since there are no opposing party or write-in candidates, this is a universal race, meaning that all voters in District 3 can vote on these candidates. And it also means that this race will be decided on August the 14th. The candidates are seated once again in alphabetical order, as they will be throughout the evening here on Rally. The first candidate we will introduce you to in the race for County Commission District 3 this evening is J. Ed Carson, who is from Pace. The second candidate to introduce you to this evening is Don Salter, who is also from Pace. Now, you may be wondering why there are 2 candidates here, and I've just told you that there are 4 candidates in this race. There are 4 candidates, but 2 of them, Jeffrey D. Kelly and Marvin Fowler, a senior, were unable to attend tonight's rally. Welcome, though, gentlemen, to each of you this evening, and it is time to begin with our questions and answers. And question number 1 will be posed to you first, Mr. Carson. Now that Team Santa Rosa has become the Santa Rosa Economic Alliance, what do you foresee as the future of this public-private partnership? And again, the question goes to you first, Mr. Carson.
Thank you. The first thing that needs to be done is we need to hire a professional economic development director and regain the public trust. We've lost public trust over the last year. We've been out of the game. So we need to get things settled down with this new director. And then as we do regain the public trust, I believe the private sector will embrace TEAM or SREA more, and we can move forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carson. And now to you, Mr. Salter. The Santa Rosa Economic Alliance, formerly the Santa Rosa, Team Santa Rosa, what do you foresee as the future of this public-private partnership?
Well, here again, this past Monday at the Commissioners meeting, my recommendation was for us to go ahead and terminate the contract with the existing organization, bring the 2 employees in-house for a temporary period of time, put together a business council, if you will, to help them work with the Board of County Commissioners and the existing staff. Let's first figure out what we want to look like in the future, get some goals in place, job descriptions, and then go out for a national search for a new director.
All right, thank you. Question number 2 goes first to you now, Mr. Salter. For years, there's been discussion of constructing a new courthouse in Santa Rosa County. What is your assessment of the need for a new facility?
Obviously, we need a new courthouse. Unfortunately, over the last 10 to 12 years, each time that subject would come up, we had Hurricane Ivan, then Hurricane Dennis, and then the economy went bad on us. So it seems like the timing has never been good to try to get designated funding for a new courthouse. And the only way that we're ever going to be able to pay for a new courthouse will be through some type of designated, time-limited sales tax. That's the only way you're going to get it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Salter. And now the question goes to you, Mr. Carson. There's been talk for a long time about possibly building and the need for a new courthouse in Santa Rosa County. What is your assessment of the need for such a facility?
Well, it's absolutely needed. It's not safe in its current condition. It's not particularly accessible. And the county keeps having to spend, I think here in the last couple of months, they awarded a $160,000 contract to Band-Aid it. So it needs to be done. It needs to be done reasonably quickly. The funding would, I've heard the sales tax remedy, that's certainly one way, but being that I'm in the business of building, I would want to look at some different types of delivery methods for the courthouse and hopefully reduce the cost some to make it more affordable.
All right, thank you. If you've just joined us, we are posing questions to the candidates for County Commission District 3 in Santa Rosa County. Each candidate is receiving the same questions, and each candidate has 45 seconds to form a response and deliver it to you. We are up to question number 3 now, and the question is, how should Santa Rosa County address critical drainage problems in order to prevent flooding, such as the recent recurrent flooding in Villa Venice? And this question is posed first to you, Mr. Carson.
I believe that new construction will be able to handle the stormwater fine. I think where we have the problems is with the older developments. I do think that we need to get out and catalog where the problems are and try to figure out what the costs for the remedies of these problems are and prioritize them moving forward. And then, of course, figure out how to fund them.
All right, thank you. And the question now to you, Mr. Salter. What are your thoughts on how Santa Rosa County should address critical drainage problems in order to prevent flooding, such as the recurrent flooding that was recently seen in Villa Venice?
Here again, Santa Rosa County back in about 1992 adopted a new 100-year flood plan to prevent that type of flooding from occurring with newer subdivisions. The older subdivisions, they need to be retrofitted. It's going to be extremely expensive. You have right-of-way problems, and they're very costly. We've done a pretty good job of retrofitting some of those subdivisions using grant money. The county, we've been losing about $2.5 million a year from our general revenue because of property values going down. So it's going to be a challenge to find money from within the county. So we're going to continue to depend on grants, and I'm not real sure if we won't be able to use some of the restore money to address those water quality issues.
All right. Well, speaking of that, this next question actually is referring to the BP settlement money. And the question goes first to you, Mr. Salter. How should the county plan to spend the millions of dollars expected from the BP settlement to assure that this money will be used to benefit all of the residents of the county to the greatest extent?
Well, here again at commissioners' meetings recently, we've talked about putting together a council of citizens and businesses throughout the county that represent the entire county. That council will look at the rules and the regulations and the amount of money, and then they'll come back and make recommendations on how to use the money in the type of projects. I certainly would like to see us do some water quality projects, probably in the south end of the county, beach renourishment in Navarre, and then also look at our industrial parks, especially Whiting Aviation Park, and use some of that money to create jobs now and turn the economy around.
All right, and the question now goes to you, Mr. Carson. With the millions of dollars that it's expected that Santa Rosa County will see from the BP settlement, what measures would you take and what would you like to see done to make sure that all of the residents of the county benefit to the greatest possible extent?
Well, as was previously said, there's going to be a council that's going to look at the different proposals. I would be in favor of the economic development piece. We need jobs in the county. People are hurting. And of course the environmental piece as well, because that's where, you know, a good bit of the damage occurred. I'm also in favor of not spending all the money right now. I'd like to see some held in reserve because we really don't know what may come up in the future as far as the damage at the beach. So I would like to see some of it held in reserve.
All right, thank you. And we are now moving into the final question for the candidates for County Commission in District 3 in Santa Rosa County. And the question goes first to you, Mr. Carson. The sand and gravel aquifer in East Milton is the site of several wells for local water companies. Please comment, if you would, please, on what the commission should do to take additional measures to protect this area. And you have 45 seconds, sir.
Well, there's some wellhead protection overlays that currently exist, and I know that there's been some discussion about strengthening them or making them broader. I am very sensitive to the current landowners and infringing on their use of their property and their property rights. So it's something that needs to be looked at very carefully. I can't really give you a blanket answer as to whether I would favor more restrictions or not.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Salter. And the question, Mr. Carson, and the question goes to Mr. Salter now, and it is in regards to the sand and gravel aquifer in East Milton. Of course, it's the site for several wells for some local companies, and we would like for you to please comment on whether the commission should take additional measures to protect this area.
Here again, it's a major issue. We got to make sure we get it right, not only right for the water protection, but also the private property rights as well. The area that where most of the wells are located now is south of Highway 90 and east of Yellow River. That's already a protected zone, so I will continue to support that area staying one of the protected areas. Part of the plan, we're looking at properties north of Highway 90. We've got to be very careful because that's where our major industrial parks and our industrial lands are. On the north side of Highway 90, I'd like to see us look at wellhead protection and not just create the whole area as a restricted area.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And that does conclude the question and answer session here. Now each candidate will have 45 seconds to make a closing statement. We began the questions with Mr. Carson, so Mr. Salter, we will begin the closing statements with you. And again, sir, you have 45 seconds.
Okay. Well, first of all, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I am Don Salter, Santa Rosa County Commissioner, District 3. I've had the honor of serving Santa Rosa County residents for the last 12 years. During this time, I've worked diligently to bring new jobs to Santa Rosa County and protect our military bases. We've created models to protect Whiting Field from closure. I want to continue to do that in the future. It's going to be extremely important as base closure comes around probably in the year 2015. With my proven leadership and my vision for Santa Rosa County and the support of our citizens, we'll continue to have a bright future in Santa Rosa County. I will appreciate your continued support during the August 14th primary election. Thank you.
All right, and now we go to you, Mr. Carson, for your closing statement. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you for this opportunity. Again, my name is Ed Carson. I'm a candidate for Santa Rosa County District 3 Commission. I am a 25-year small business owner and have been active in the community for about the same amount of time on many civic and charity boards. I've received a number of awards for my leadership, ethics, and volunteerism during that time. I think that we need to pursue the BP fine money and make sure it's spent wisely. I also think we need to encourage and nurture small businesses in the county. They're the backbone of our county. And I also want to ask you to visit my website, edcarson2012.com, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You still had 5 seconds after the first ding, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you very much. And those were the candidates for County Commission District 3 in Santa Rosa County. And if you're just joining us, a reminder that there are 2 other candidates in that race. Marvin Fowler Sr. and Jeffrey Kelly were unable to attend rally this evening.
Well, in just a moment, Drexel, we will move on to the County Commission District 5 race. For now, a look at that and the other races just ahead here on Rally 2012. You're watching WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast. There are 3 ways to cast a ballot in Santa Rosa County: by mail, early voting, or at your precinct on Election Day. To vote by mail, contact the Santa Rosa County Supervisor of Elections office by phone, mail, fax, or email. Ballots must reach the Supervisor of Elections office by 7 p.m. on Election Day. Early voting takes place from Saturday, August 4th through Saturday, August 11th at the Santa Rosa Supervisor of Elections office in Milton and at the South Santa Rosa Service Center on Highway 98 in Gulf Breeze. Early voting hours each day are 8 a.m. until 5:30 p.m., including Saturday and Sunday. On the day of the primary election, Tuesday, August 14th, voting takes place from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. You must vote in the precinct in which you live and are registered, and be sure to bring photo and signature ID with you.
Welcome back to Rally 2012. I'm Drexel Gilbert, joined tonight by Sandra Averhart on Rally 2012 as we meet candidates from races in the Santa Rosa County primary election.
Well, up next is the race for County Commission District 5. There are 2 Republican candidates. There are no opposing party challengers, meaning the winner of this primary will win the District 5 seat. Now, although there are 2 candidates in this race, only one of those candidates was able to join us tonight. Now, he is Lane Lynchard, and Mr. Lynchard is from Gulf Breeze. Mr. Lynchard's opponent is C.H. Pete Sutherland, but Mr. Sutherland was unable to attend rally this evening. So, Mr. Lynchard, we will carry on. We will pose to you the 5 questions, one after another, and of course the questions provided by the Pensacola Bay Area League of Women Voters. Let's get started. First question: a majority of the current commission has recently expressed concerns about the lack of public oversight over tax dollars used to provide more than 90% of the budget of the Santa Rosa Economic Alliance. How do you address this concern?
Well, thank you for having us on tonight. I agree that we need to make some serious changes to our economic development organization in Santa Rosa County. 2 weeks ago, I proposed terminating the relationship with Team Santa Rosa, our existing economic development organization, and transitioning to a new model in Santa Rosa County, either a public-private model or a completely private model. The goal is not to have less private involvement, but to have more private involvement.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to question number 2. Now that the state septic tank law requiring inspection every 5 years has been rescinded, what impact do you foresee on pollution from leaking septic systems in the county?
You know, we have, in the past in Santa Rosa County, we had our own county ordinance that required septic tanks be inspected whenever a property was sold. That ordinance has gone away now that the state made their changes. But the technology associated with septic tanks has changed over the years. The tanks are built better now. We also have areas in the county where we don't permit septic tanks in large subdivisions. So I think those safeguards that we have in place, along with making sure that we require the most up-to-date models in Santa Rosa County, will help us to ensure that our water quality, our environment is protected into the future.
All right, our next question addresses the issue of flooding. Homes in the Villa Venice development have flooded 5 times in the last few years. So far, adequate drainage is not available in that community. What can be done, in your opinion, to prevent this type of problem in the future?
Well, the areas where we have flooding in South Santa Rosa County typically are areas that predate the state stormwater management plan. So they're older areas that we're going to have to go back in and retrofit stormwater drainage projects to. Over the past 2 years, we've done almost $5 million worth of stormwater drainage projects funded through an HMGP grant program. Under that program, the federal government pays 75% of the project costs and the county pays 25% of the project costs. So in the areas where we completed the projects, we didn't have any homes that flooded. Now, we still have areas that need to be addressed, and we've already started working on those areas, and we're going to move forward to more HMGP projects soon.
All right, we want to remind you that we are talking to our County Commission District 5 candidate. There are 2 candidates in this race, but Mr. Sutherland could not be here tonight, so we are carrying forward with Mr. Lynchard. And we are up to question number 4. The questions, of course, provided by the Pensacola Bay Area League of Women Voters. Question number 4, cutting a pass from the Sound to the Gulf at Navarre for use by voters was supported recently by the Commission. But the military has scrapped that proposal, claiming the plan impinged upon their mission. Despite that setback, would you continue to pursue this undertaking?
You know, the pass is a difficult issue. The military is so important to South Santa Rosa County that, and quite frankly, they swing such a big stick down there that if they don't want the pass, we probably won't get it. There are many issues that have to be settled, environmental, budgetary, and otherwise, before a pass can ever be considered. It is something that in and of itself would transform Navarre more than probably any other action that could take place. So the pass could be a very important part of our future, but there are a lot of questions out there that have to be answered first.
All right, thank you. Up to question number 5 now, our final question for this candidate and in this race. A controversy was created a couple of years ago when the Commission purchased land for an industrial park. Now, after 2 years, what is your opinion of the development at that site?
Not only did I not vote for that purchase 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I railed against it back then. I don't think it was a good idea. I think it was the wrong time, the wrong property. That property has not been developed to date. We haven't turned a shovel of dirt out there, but we did spend almost our entire economic development budget that we had built up on that property. So I don't agree with that. I didn't agree with that purchase back then. I certainly don't agree with it now.
All right, thank you. And that completes the question and answer session for County Commission District 5. Mr. Lynchard, you now have 45 seconds for a closing statement.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm Lane Lynchard, your current County Commissioner for District 5. Thank you for taking the time to get informed about your local government. I grew up in Milton, I live in Gulf Breeze, and I've been practicing law in Navarre for the past 12 years. My wife Lori and I live in Tiger Point with our 8-year-old son, Brian, who's watching tonight. Hey, Brian. My approach to county government has been governed and guided by what I believe is best for our families and our local economy. Over the last 4 years, I've worked to bring common sense to budget issues, growth and development issues, and quality of life issues. And that's what I'm going to continue to focus on. I've worked to improve transportation safety on our roads. I've been your representative for Santa Rosa County on the Restore Act. If you re-elect me as your County Commissioner for District 5, I will continue to work thoughtfully and effectively for the betterment of all of Santa Rosa County. Thank you for your time, and I would appreciate your vote for Lane Lynchard on August 14th.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lynchard. And just a reminder, if you've just joined us, there is a second Republican candidate in this particular race. C.H. Pete Sutherland was unable to attend rally this evening.
Now, rally is an opportunity for you to hear candidates from Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties address the issues that are affecting you as voters. As we're now just 3 weeks away from the August 14th primary. We heard from Okaloosa County candidates last night. We're hearing from Santa Rosa County candidates tonight. Candidates for state races that impact all 3 counties, and also Escambia County will be with us tomorrow night. The next candidates, though, this evening are coming to us from the Santa Rosa County School Board District 2 race. This is a nonpartisan race. All District 2 voters are eligible to cast ballots in this race, regardless of party affiliation. There are 2 candidates, and once again, they are seated alphabetically. The first candidate is Joseph Poole, and Mr. Poole is from Milton. And seated next to Mr. Poole is Hugh Winkles, who is also from Milton. Candidates, welcome this evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Gentlemen, I will be asking each of you 5 questions. You will have 45 seconds to respond, and then at the conclusion of the questions and answers, we will give you 45 seconds to make a closing statement. We are going to begin the questioning alphabetically, and so we will start question number 1 with you, Mr. Poole. In your view, what can be done to reverse the declining education levels in American high schools, and how do you see this problem impacting local schools? And we begin with you, Mr. Poole. You have 45 seconds.
Well, thank you for allowing us to come to this forum. You know, decline in education isn't all necessarily due to the schools and the teachers. The family is probably the most integral part of what goes on in our country and our local areas. You know, funding is always a question about schooling, and you only have a set amount of funds. And I think the best thing that we can do, besides trying to help families out, and that's nothing that we can necessarily do as teachers, but we can make the best use of our time in the classroom that is available to us, and don't use it for something other than the education of our students, and make sure we hire the very best and brightest teachers and hold on to those folks, because they are on the front lines of teaching our students. So that's the best way to push ahead with making sure that we can combat the declines.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poole. And now the question goes to you, Mr. Winkles. There's been a trend of declining education in American high schools. How do you think this problem should be addressed, and how do you see this problem impacting local schools?
Well, locally, I think Santa Rosa County has done an excellent job of educating students, both at elementary and middle school and high school level. I think what school boards need nationwide is more local control, more local decision making. I think that would help tremendously, because we know what's going on in our county, and we need to make those decisions. I think we do an excellent job of taking test data, analyzing that data, developing curriculum. We're in areas where we are maybe weak in, we develop that to make it stronger. So we're constantly improving and doing a great job in Santa Rosa County.
All right, thank you. Question number 2 now goes first to you, Mr. Winkles. With disappointing scores on many of the recent FCAT tests, suggestions are being made to retain poorly functioning students in grades 1 and 2 until they are absolutely ready to be advanced to the next grade. What is your response to this proposal, sir?
Well, to be honest with you, we have not discussed that proposal in Santa Rosa County. I know with the 3rd grade level, they have to maintain a certain reading score in order to advance, and if not, they can be held back. But they're also given an opportunity to remediate, and therefore be on the same level with their peers. But as far as holding back in 1st and 2nd grade, we have not discussed that. Not sure that that's the correct avenue or direction that I would want to go as a board member. It's just a touchy situation.
All right, thank you. And the question now goes to you, Mr. Poole. There were some disappointing scores on recent FCAT tests, and in the wake of that, some have made suggestions to hold back students in first and second grades until they are ready to be advanced. What is your response to that proposal?
Well, I would not agree with that. FCAT is a big deal to a lot of folks, and it is something that comes out from Tallahassee to a local area like ours. And to tell students based on FCAT standardized score that you can't advance is telling us that we really don't know what's best for that student. I think for sure that that it should be up to discretion of the teachers and the parents based on what is actually going on in the classroom and the learning that they have documented as if that student should progress in first and second grade. There's so many other things that need to be looked at with the progression of kids within their own age group and their friends and those kind of things at that early age.
All right, thank you. And now the next question, the third question, goes to you first, Mr. Poole. Although it was defeated in last year's legislative session, the Parent Empowerment Bill would have allowed a majority of parents to request a takeover or turnaround of a public school that is consistently in the lower quartile and change it to a charter school, go in a different direction. What are your thoughts on this legislation?
That's a very interesting question. I'm all about competition, and if something were to be available made to parents to turn a school around to make it better than it was, then they should take that option. But of course, any school that comes into that format, they're graded and they need to be given the chance to turn themselves around and make the necessary adjustments that can do that. I think you'll find that there are things that can be done at the school level that can be utilized and adjusted to make that school a better school, and that should be a last alternative to take a school over. But competition is good. It keeps everybody on their toes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poole. And now to you, Mr. Winkles. The Parent Empowerment Bill was defeated in last year's session of the legislature. It would have allowed a majority of parents who found schools that consistently scored in the lower quartile to request a change to or a takeover to a charter school system. What are your thoughts on that legislation, sir?
I think it was a bad piece of legislation. It was not, simply put, it was just a bad piece of legislation. I think it's just another, charter schools do have a place. I'm not totally against charter schools, but it was just an opportunity that they're trying to do to just replace the public school systems in Santa Rosa County to a totally charter school-based system of education, in my opinion. I think Santa Rosa County is doing an excellent job. We have no low-performing schools in Santa Rosa County. So it's, to me, it was just a flawed piece of legislation.
All right, thank you. And we are now up to question number 4 in this race for school board and in Santa Rosa County. What policies, sir, and we start with you, Mr. Poole, what policies will you propose to assist teachers as they prepare students for the required national core standards beginning in the 2016 school year? And let me correct myself, we are going to start with you, Mr. Winkles. And again, let me repeat that. What policies will you propose to assist teachers as they prepare students for the required national core standards beginning in the 2016 school year?
Well, we already have professional development plans in place for the core standards. I mean, the Common Core standards. We've already got it laid out through our professional development department. So we're ahead of the game. As it stands right now, I don't think we need any policies. What we need to do is just make sure that we give the teachers the resources and professional development they need in order to, for us to do well with these Common Core standards.
All right, thank you. And the question now goes to you, Mr. Poole. What policies would you propose to assist teachers as they help students prepare for the national core standards beginning in the 2016 school year?
Well, it's probably a two-pronged approach there. First of all, core standards are going to be taught during the teaching time. And so we cannot decrease any amount of teaching time that occurs in the classroom at any grade level. We have to ensure that the amount of face time you have with your students is of the utmost importance, because that's why we're there for education. We're there for the class time. The other portion of that is for for information to be disseminated for those common core standards, for things to be taught, they have to be taught from the brightest and the best teachers. And so as a school board member, I want to be in my schools and making sure that the teachers that are there are the ones that are the best ones that can be there, and the ones that the principals want to be there. So that's intricate that we have good teachers teaching.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poole. And the final question tonight to you gentlemen, and you will have, as with the other questions, 45 seconds to respond. What is the greatest challenge that you see that is facing the Santa Rosa County public school system at this time? Mr. Poole.
Well, of course, probably the greatest challenge is the budget. We have done, as Mr. Winkle stated, done more with less, and we're have been in a budget crunch for the last few years, and the teachers have done just a fantastic job in the classroom of making sure that we have the highest standards in our state. And they have done an excellent job. It's been on their backs that our students have progressed, and on the backs of the parents, of course, that bring their students to school. So the budget and finding new ways and innovative ways to make sure that we utilize those funds to the best of our ability, and to make sure that every tax dollar that we ask to be given to us is utilized to the very most benefit of the student in the classroom.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poole. Mr. Winkles, obviously school systems all over face many challenges, but what do you think is the most serious challenge that's facing the Santa Rosa County public school system at this time?
I think our main challenge is to continue and to maintain an outstanding student performance that we've shown in the past. And the challenge is, because public education changes so often, as you well know, and to maintain that student performance in the ever-changing face of public education is a challenge. And also with the economic climate that we're in, to make staff morale, teacher morale important, because it's tough. We do our best what we can for our faculty and our non-instructional personnel, but with the financial situations that we faced, we're doing our best to maintain morale also.
All right, thank you. And thank you both, gentlemen. And now each of you will have 45 seconds to make a closing statement. We began the questions with Mr. Poole, so Mr. Winkles, we will begin the closing statements with you, sir.
Okay, well, I am the best qualified candidate. I bring stability, and I have 20 years of proven leadership and experience. One of the strengths of our school district has been the stability at key leadership positions. I know my role as a board member. I know my primary role is developing policies. I also know how important it is to maintain an effective and efficient organizational structure that allows the superintendent and administrators to manage and operate our schools, which allows teachers to teach and students to learn. During my time on the board, the Santa Rosa County school system has proven to be an outstanding and successful school district because we focus on student performance. Help me continue that success. Vote for Hugh Winkles, Santa Rosa County School Board Member, District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. And now your closing statement, Mr. Poole. You have 45 seconds, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to say hello to my children, James and Anna, Jonathan, Josiah, Joseph, Joshua, and Jeremiah. I have 7 children, 5 of them in the school system presently. And this is why I say I have a vested interest. I will have children in the school system for the next 14 years. I was a teacher myself for 10 years. I've been in private industry for the past 12, so I have that unique perspective of both sides of the coin. And that's what this race boils down to. Do the voters want somebody with some new ideas, maybe a fresh perspective, someone who has seen both sides of the coin, has been in the trenches in the classroom, and can bring also the assets of the private industry with that? So I'm asking the voters to give me strong consideration because I feel like I'm a great candidate and probably the best candidate for this position.
Thank you. And those were the candidates for School Board District 2 in Santa Rosa County. This race will be decided on August 14th as there are no opposing party challengers.
And Drexel, there is another school board seat that is up for grabs. That race is for School Board District 4. Also a nonpartisan race, and there are 3 candidates seeking this office. The winner of this race must get 50% of the vote plus 1 to win outright. Now, if none of the candidates gets that 50% plus 1, then the top 2 vote getters will then move on to a runoff in the general election, which will be held in November. And it is now time to meet the candidates in moving alphabetically. The first candidate is William Bledsoe of Pace. Our second candidate this evening is Charles Wayne Elliott, also of Pace. And our third candidate this evening in the race is Jenny Granz, and she also lives in Pace. Welcome to you all, candidates.
Thank you.
All right, it's now time for our questions. Each candidate has 45 seconds to respond, and just a reminder, these questions do come from the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay area. Our first question. In an effort to improve the level of education in the United States compared to some other nations, some have proposed that both the school day and school year be extended. What is your reaction to that suggestion? And Mr. Bledsoe, first to you.
I have been reading the reports from all across the country. So many school districts are planning to extend their school day or extend their school year. And then some of the following comments from those reports are that a longer day is not necessarily going to translate into better grades. There are two thoughts along that line. Some people think it will work, some don't. Personally, I do not. I believe our success will be in the classroom with good teachers and good materials to teach with. I don't think longer hours is going to solve it.
Okay, thank you very much. The question will next go to Mr. Elliott. And sir, what is your reaction to the suggestion that the school day and school year, in fact, be extended to help the United States keep up with some other nations?
I think here in Santa Rosa County, we're doing a tremendous job of what we're doing. And I've always told, you never touch something, you never try to fix something that is not broke. So I think we're doing a tremendous job with our teachers, getting the information out as far as extending the days or extending the year throughout the year or even the hours. I think Santa Rosa County is doing great of the hours that we have. So right now I think that we're doing tremendous, and in my opinion, I think we don't need to touch that here in Santa Rosa County.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Elliott. And now this question to Ms. Granz. Your reaction, what is your reaction to the suggestion that the school day and even the school year be extended?
I can understand why they're studying it. It does sound like a good idea. Our kids get out of school pretty early, and it would be better probably for the family if the kids did go longer, but financially it's just not feasible. Right now we are in some tough economic times, and there's no way that we're going to be able to extend the school day or the school year. You know, maybe when the economy looks up, maybe we can look into something like that, but right now I don't see that where that's going to be feasible.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to question number 2. An issue related to FCAT scores is the suggestion that 7th and 8th graders be retained in their current grade if they are unable to pass a civics exam. Now, please give us your comment on whether you think this retention is justified on the basis of the failure of a single test. And we'll start with you, Mr. Elliott.
Number one, here in Santa Rosa County, the FCATs are a little touchy. It's because the fact is I do not feel that they need to be retained in the grade because it may be a little low score on their FCAT. I think that we need to look into a little better testing for our children in FCAT. Maybe they might be in low in some areas, and in the areas that they're low in, then we can go and work with that individual of our students, but not hold them back and punish the child because of that reason.
All right, thank you very much. And Ms. Granz gets the next opportunity to answer this question related to FCAT scores. And the suggestion is that 7th and 8th graders be retained in their current grade if they're unable to pass a civics exam. Comment, please, on whether you think this is justified, this retention, on the basis of the failure of a single test.
First of all, I don't think any child should be failed based on one exam. Secondly, to my knowledge, we don't test civics on the FCAT. They are talking about testing civics on the core values test that's coming up nationally, but right now, civics is not tested on FCAT. But no, I don't believe any child should have to fail because of one test.
All right, thank you very much. And finally, this question will go to Mr. Bledsoe, and we're just seeking your comment on whether retention of 7th and 8th graders who are unable to pass the civics exam, the basis of failure of one test, is justified.
No, I do not believe they should be held back just based on that one class. I don't believe any student should be held back on one class failure. I don't think the measurement and assessment on one class is going to make a big difference in promoting the student to the next grade level. I'm in favor of passing them on the basis of this particular class you're talking about. But I believe civics is a necessary subject that needs to be taught.
All right, thank you. We are up to question number 3 now for our School Board District 4 candidates. And the question is, public high school students are now required to complete at least one course through online learning prior to graduation. Please give us your assessment of the use of this technological advance in the schools, and we'll go to you first, Ms. Granz.
Good. That was part of legislation recently. And I do think it's a good idea because we are living in the electronic age. My granddaughter was out capturing pollywogs, and as soon as she got them, she got home, grabbed her dad's iPad, and Googled what to feed them. You know, she's going in the 3rd grade. This is how children are learning. The kids are going to be taking the test, the Common Core Values test, on the computer, so they need to know how to use the computer. And it will give them an experience. If they take this one class in high school, maybe it'll encourage them, motivate them to take more classes that way.
All right. Thank you. We're talking about public high school students now being required to complete at least one course online prior to graduation. Mr. Bledsoe, this question to you now. Give us your assessment of the use of this technological advance.
Well, I'm in favor of the students learning how to use the technology. I don't see anything wrong with it. I believe it's, as Ms. Grancy said, it's part of the future. One class, I would not go beyond that, but teaching them how to use the technology is good. They're going to need it when they get out of high school or out of college. I'm not one of the computer geeks, but I believe it should be part of their high school curriculum.
All right, and our 3rd question will finally go to Mr. Elliott, and we are asking your assessment of the use of technology and the requirement that students take at least one online course prior to graduation.
First of all, I think it's a tremendous idea. For example, I just got a new phone, an iPad phone or whatever you call it, and my granddaughter even had to teach me how to use it, and she's going into the 2nd grade. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity to go step into the future as we're preparing our students into the real world as they go out into the college and to the world, that they know how to go into the computer, because it is the future of tomorrow, and I think it's a tremendous idea.
All right, thank you. If you're just joining us, you are watching Rally 2012 here on WSRE TV. We are now talking with the candidates for School Board District 4 in Santa Rosa County, and we are up to our 4th question. And just a reminder that these questions come from the League of Women Voters of the Pensacola Bay area. Question number 4. What is your assessment of how the Santa Rosa County school system is preparing students to meet the national core standards, which will be required for graduation of all high school students beginning in 2016? Mr. Bledsoe, you get the first shot at this one.
What is my opinion of how the school board is preparing for it? I think the school system in Santa Rosa County is up to par. They're on the ball. I think there's not a whole lot of preparation they need to make. Just make sure we have good teachers in the classroom. That's the teachers that are qualified in the subject they're teaching. I think that's important. That's about it. Make sure we have good teachers and give them the equipment they need to teach with.
Okay, thank you. This question now will go next to Mr. Elliott, and we are asking your assessment of how the Santa Rosa County School District is preparing students to meet the national core standards, which will be required for graduation of high school students, all high school students, by 2016.
First of all, we don't dwell in the past, but I have to say in the past, being a Santa Rosa County resident all my life and graduated here in 1980 at Milton High School, we have done a tremendous job in the past. We're doing a tremendous job in the present, and I know that we're going to continue doing a tremendous job in the future preparing the board. We've got tremendous teachers, we've got tremendous staff, faculty and staff, administrators. We're number 2 out of 67 counties, so we're doing a tremendous job in preparing, and I think we'll continue doing that in the future.
Okay, very good. And this question number 4 is finally to Ms. Granz. We are asking your assessment. How do you think the district is doing in preparing students to meet the national core standards, which will be required for graduation by 2016?
Well, I know for a fact that teachers and administrators are getting professional development. They are learning about the core standards. They're learning different ways to teach these standards. And I know that this started last year, maybe even the year before, but we are getting ready. But we're also going to need the parents' help. Lately, or just recently, I downloaded an app on Common Core Values, and it's really clear, concise, tells you parents exactly what core values, what standards are going to be taught at each grade level. And we're going to need parents' help with that too, so that they can be working with their children at home.
All right, thank you very much. We're now up to question number 5 for our candidates, and it's a little bit long, so bear with me. We're talking about summer school. Now, although regular summer school was eliminated a few years ago, the Santa Rosa system is now offering a summer session for middle and high school students who need to retake the final algebra exam or take a course that they failed. Now, the question is, should this limited summer program be expanded to accommodate a larger number of students? And if so, how could it be funded? And Mr. Elliott, we give that question to you first.
First of all, as we're coming into a new financial year, I think it's something that we can look into, and absolutely, if the money is there and the budget is there, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our children. If they did not get it throughout the year, give them extended time to be able to take these courses throughout the summer, that they will be able to advance themselves and go on to the next year.
All right, thank you very much. The question is, we're talking about summer school. Should the district's limited summer program be expanded to accommodate a larger number of students? And if so, how would it be funded? Ms. Granz.
All right. I think the summer school opportunity is good for those kids who have failed a course. It will allow them to catch up. Other kids, if they need remediation, if they feel they need remediation, we have virtual school that we offer for them. You can even take virtual school for enrichment classes. So I think we offer, both avenues for our students, enrichment activities, enrichment opportunities, and also remediation opportunities. As for financing, it is going to be difficult. Our school district is really conscious about saving money, and it's been difficult. So I can't tell you how we would finance it, but I know if it was important, Santa Rosa County would find a way.
All right, this question is next to Mr. Bledsoe, and the question is, how do you think, or do you think the district's limited summer program, do you think it should be extended to include more students, and if so, how do you think it should be funded?
Well, I've always felt that summer school was for students who are falling behind in their grades, in their studies. I think it should be focused primarily on those who need extra instruction in subjects, not open to everybody, unless the school, of course, has the money. And we know that's not the fact. So I believe it should be limited to the students who actually need extra teaching in their classes.
All right, and we have one final question for these candidates for Santa Rosa County School Board District 4. And the question is, what do you think is the greatest challenge facing the Santa Rosa County public school system? And Ms. Grants, you get the first shot at this one.
I think the biggest challenge is going to be our economic recession. It's been very difficult for county entities to come up with money to provide the programs that we need to provide. Santa Rosa County has lost $20 million in state funding since 2009, and we are teaching hundreds more children since then too. So our teachers are doing much more with less, and I'm so proud of them because they are really doing a good job. You know, it's been difficult for them, but I really do think that's going to be the issue, and that's one of the reasons I want to be on the board, because I want to say in how that budget is spent.
All right, thank you. This question to Mr. Bledsoe, what do you think is the greatest challenge facing the Santa Rosa County public school system?
Well, of course, the budget is always a big challenge, especially in the economic times that we're in right now. But I believe serving on the board will give us an opportunity to look at all of the budget items. There may be some that we can drop. There may be some that we need to expand on. The budget, of course, would be the big issue. And having the qualified teachers in the class to teach the subjects that they're teaching.
All right, thank you. And finally, to Mr. Elliott, what do you think is the greatest challenge facing the Santa Rosa County public school system?
I think that, as they have already said tonight, the budget, I think that continue finding ways to look at the budget and continue going, as we have already said tonight, staying within our means until we get a little bit more freedom and a little bit more money that we can operate a little bit more efficient, as we are doing as best as we can of what we got to do with.
All right, thank you, candidates. That concludes our question-answer session. Now each of you has 45 seconds to deliver a closing statement. And we'll begin at this time, again, with Mr. Bledsoe.
Well, I am a former high school teacher. I taught high school 12 years. And I served on the Western Association of Schools and Colleges when we accredited 6 of the high schools. I have 6 teachers in the family. I think I'm qualified as a leader and as a team worker because I have served as the president or chairman of boards in numerous organizations. And I think my 12 years in the Marine Corps kind of helps me out in that area. I think I'm well qualified for the board, and I think we need new blood on the board, and Bledsoe will be that new blood.
All right, thanks, Mr. Bledsoe. And now to Mr. Elliott, 45 seconds for your closing statement.
I realize that my opponents here, candidates, they have taught school. I have never taught school. I have never been a principal of Santa Rosa County Schools, but I do have my interest in Santa Rosa County Schools, being a resident here in Santa Rosa County all my life. Got 2 children that graduated in Pace High School, got 3 grandchildren. So that tells me that I have got 25 years and in counting in Santa Rosa County. And I got an interest in Santa Rosa County schools, and I want to be a part of the decision making here in Santa Rosa County and realize that there are heavy challenges ahead, and I want to meet those challenges. So I asked you, come August the 14th, I asked you to vote Charles Elliott, Santa Rosa County School District. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you to Mr. Elliott, and now to Ms. Grants. 45 seconds for your closing statement.
I'm excited to be a district candidate. I feel I'm the most qualified. I was a classroom teacher for 23 years and a school administrator for 13. As a principal, I earned a reputation for solving problems and making decisions that favor both students and parents. I've worked with hundreds of parents setting school policy, and now I'd like the opportunity to work with parents and other board members to set district policy. I'm passionate about education. We have excellent teachers in Santa Rosa County, and they need to feel valued and appreciated. I think it's time we elect a K-12 educated, experienced person to the board, one who understands how board decisions affect the classroom and the students, one who has the time necessary to spend serving the parents and schools in District 4. Vote
right.
Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grants, and thanks to all of the candidates for the School Board District 4 seat in Santa Rosa County.
Okay, we've been at it for about an hour and a half now, but we are coming into the home stretch of tonight's Rally 2012 program. There are still 3 races to come, and we're going to take a look right now at those races that are still ahead here on Rally 2012 on WSRE TV PBS for the Gulf Coast. And welcome back to Rally 2012. I'm Drexel Gilbert, and I am joined this evening by Sandra Averhart and the candidates from various races in Santa Rosa County as we pose questions to them about the issues, questions that were provided to us by the League of Women Voters, Pensacola Bay Area. The next set of questions will be presented to candidates for the office of sheriff in Santa Rosa County. There are 2 Republican candidates. The candidate who wins the primary will face an independent challenger in the general election. His name is Chris Roper. Seated alphabetically, the first candidate to be this evening is Wendell Hall, who is from Pace. And the second candidate in the race for sheriff in Santa Rosa County is Chuck Sloan, and he is from Milton. And we say welcome to both of you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I will be posing questions to you, and you will have 45 seconds to respond to each of those questions. And at the conclusion of the question and answer session, you will then have 45 seconds to make a closing statement. So here we go. Question number 1, and we are going to start alphabetically as we've been doing all evening. And it goes first to you, Mr. Hall. What is the biggest law enforcement challenge and issue that you see facing Santa Rosa County, and how do you propose to address that challenge?
Well, we're like a lot of other county agencies. Because of our hard economic times, we're asked to do a lot more with less, but we have stepped up to that challenge. We're a very fast-growing county. In the last 10 years, we grew almost 40%, and that alone, growth, is a huge challenge for us. But we've met that challenge. We've been very aggressive toward our drug dealers in the county. Drugs are always a very serious problem with any county. We see it on a daily basis in neighboring counties. So our biggest challenge is, of course, is to deal with the growth that we're having and to fight crime and make, whatever it is, whether it's drugs or whatever, we need to address it as it comes.
All right, thank you. And the question now goes to you, Mr. Sloan. What do you believe is the most serious law enforcement challenge facing or issue facing Santa Rosa County, and how do you propose to address it?
Well, right now, the challenge that I see is that crime rate has risen or increased 10% the last year and 3% back in 2010. To address this, there needs to be accountability. Accountability not only from the administration level, but down to the district officers or supervisors of the districts, down to the patrol supervisors, and all the way down to the men on the road and the women. Just accountability to stay on top of it and do what we can to keep crime down. Another issue that I'm hearing from the public is the traffic, the heavy traffic on Highway 90 and Highway 98. And then people are talking about the subdivision where people are trying to bypass these
major highways to mainly the traffic lights and coming through the subdivisions. So that's where I'm going to talk about reinstating the traffic division to get it back up and going.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sloan. Now we're on to question 2, and we will start this time with you, Mr. Sloan. Bullying is in the news a lot, and we hear about it whether it's in the streets, in the schools, the workplace, even in cyberspace. What unique contributions do you believe the sheriff could make to programs that are aimed at addressing the serious issue of bullying?
This is where it needs to be. The school resource officers need to address this in the schools and to identify the students that are being bullied and pushing other students around. Plus, it also needs to go to the home and notify the parents of what's going on, and especially with their student, if their student or their child is the one that's doing the bullying. But you know, bullies has always been there, but it's just getting worse now. And it seems like there's more than just one or two. They're kind of like getting in a little gang-like thing and bullying other kids. And this is where the school resource officers, like I said, can do the training and then inform the parents of them of what's going on in the schools.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sloan. Mr. Hall, to the issue of bullying, what unique contributions do you believe the sheriff can have towards programs aimed at stopping this?
We do have programs. We work very closely with the school system to the CEO roundtable with anti-bullying programs. And of course, we do have school resource officers in all of our high schools, and they're also flexible if we need to send someone into the middle school or even into elementary school to support the programs. But the schools do a very good job of trying to monitor excessive bullying. Of course, kids will have a tendency to pick on one another, but if it gets to the point that it's entering over into the internet and Facebooks and we see it's a problem for kids, we do get involved and we support the school systems through our school resource officer program.
All right, thank you. And we are posing questions to the candidates for sheriff in Santa Rosa County. And question number 3 goes to you first, Mr. Hall. Please give us your opinion on the movement to privatize jails and prisons in the state.
That's been tried in several counties, the closest being Bay County. There's really no advantage of it. I think jails are a public safety issue. I think it's something that the chief law enforcement officer in the county should be in charge of, because the people that we arrest on the street end up in the jails, and the care for them and the security of them, the security for our county, lies within the walls of that jail. So there's really no savings into it. A lot of people, because they are for profit if they're private. So I'm not in favor of privatizations of jails, because history shows that hasn't been very successful, and it's really not a money-saving issue.
All right, and Mr. Sloan, your opinion, please, this evening on the move to privatize jails and prisons in the state.
I'm not for it 100% because of the fact that when you got big corporations that's making millions of dollars, the only thing they're interested in is making money. The legality of it, of course, privatization does not have to meet the same qualifications that a county jail does, so with the state and the federal laws. So I'm totally against it 100%.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sloan, you get question number 4 first this time. The NRA and the United Sportsmen survey sent to all sheriffs in Florida resulted in criticism from the State Sheriff's Association. What is your assessment of that issue?
Can you read that question one more?
Sure. The NRA and the United Sportsmen survey that was sent to all sheriffs in Florida resulted in criticism from the State Sheriff's Association. What is your assessment of the issue?
I answered the questions, and I really didn't have any problems with it. The NRA is basically supporting and strong supporters of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. I'm not real sure or up to date is what the Sheriff's Association was against on that survey, although the survey was kind of seemed like it was pointing that the Sheriff's Association was against it. But the questionnaire myself, I had no problem with it.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hall, the NRA and United Sportsmen survey was sent to all sheriffs in Florida, and it did receive criticism from the State Sheriff's Association. Would you tell us, please, your assessment of this?
Yes, I'm a member of the Florida Sheriff's Association. However, I did choose to answer the questionnaire. I'm a very big proponent of the Second Amendment. However, some of the questions were somewhat twofold. They were somewhat slanted toward direct questions, but most of all, I do believe in the Second Amendment. There were some issues and some of the questions that I did not completely agree with. However, I answered them and with explanation as to why I answered them the way that I did. I felt that it was, as far as I'm concerned, it was worth answering, and I did so.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hall, you will start the final question in this question and answer session. In addition to the questions you've already received, what would you say is an important issue that needs to be addressed in this election?
Well, I think the main thing is we need to look at experience. We need to look at the history of the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office, and we have a great county. We have a great Sheriff's Office. We have a great agency. We're fully accredited in both the jail and in law enforcement. So we need to keep doing what we're doing. We obviously have gone through some hard economic times, but we have addressed those, and we've done it without an increase in our budget. This will be the 5th year. So those are the big issues. As I said before, with the growth, there was a slight increase in our what we call property crimes last year. However, our violent crimes were down. So the issues are we need to maintain what we're doing. We need to, as soon as we're able to do more in our school programs and traffic and those type things, when the budget allows it, we need to move in that direction.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Sloan, in addition to the questions you've already been asked, what other issues would you say are important and need to be addressed during this election?
Well, the budget at the Sheriff's Department is very important, but right now there's no way that I'd even go to the taxpayers to try to ask for more money and try to basically stay within the budget that's going right now to keep it, the Sheriff's Department running. The thing would be to reorganize the Sheriff's Department and try to cut down as much as we can on some of the costs, but yet not cut out any of the services on it. And sometimes it's the little things that cost money. At first you don't think about it until the end of the budget year and you see how it mounted up. So there's a lot of things that can be looked at. There's one law that I'd like to look at. It's where the fees collected by the Sheriff's Department has to be returned by the Board of County Commissioners. Well,
okay. I know that bell just keeps going off, but thank you very much. And thank you to each of you. You both will have 45 seconds to deliver a closing statement. We began the questions with you, Mr. Hall, so we will begin the closing statements with you, Mr. Sloan. 45 seconds, sir.
With me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. There we go.
All right, I'm Chuck Sloan. I'm a lifelong resident of Santa Rosa County. I've been married 36 years. I have 2 daughters and 7 grandchildren. I attended Pensacola Junior College and graduated with a degree in criminal justice. I retired from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department with over 25 years of service and retired with the rank of captain. During my career with the Sheriff's Department, I worked in, supervised, and prepared the budget for just about every division within the Sheriff's Department. I will be conservative and use common sense in the daily operations, streamline the agency, cut costs as much as I can without cutting services, and I will not forget who I work for and answer to, and that's you, the citizens of Santa Rosa County. I appreciate your vote on August 14th.
Thank you. And now to you, Mr. Hall, for your closing statement. You have 45 seconds, sir.
It has truly been an honor to serve as the Sheriff of Santa Rosa County for the past 12 years. We have, as I said, we have built an agency that we can all be proud of with the help of our citizens and the fine men and women of the Sheriff's Office. We're fully accredited in both law enforcement and law enforcement. We have faced and we have fought our drug problems head on, which can be the downfall of any community. We have kept our schools safe, and we've made a great county for you to raise and educate your children. We will continue to do that. We have also worked through hard times with our budgetary issues. We have, as I said earlier, we have kept the budget that we've had for the past 5 years. So I ask you to let's continue making Santa Rosa County a great place to live. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you to both of you gentlemen. Those were the candidates for sheriff in Santa Rosa County on Rally 2012 tonight.
And up next, Drexel, is the race for superintendent of schools. There are 2 Republican candidates who will be on the primary ballot. There are no opposing party challengers, so the winner of the primary will win the office. And we've talked before about the fact that some races are universal races, and this in fact is one of those. It is open to all voters in the county regardless of party affiliation. Now let's meet the candidates for Superintendent of Schools for Santa Rosa County, and they are Dr. George McCormick. He is from Gulf Breeze. And also joining us tonight, candidate Timothy S. Rosdick, and he is from Milton. Gentlemen, you will each have 45 seconds to answer our questions, and they do come from the League of Women Voters of the Pensacola Bay Area. First to Dr. McCormick, the first question will go to you. Although the Santa Rosa County schools are considered among the best in Florida, almost half of the students would not have achieved successful scores if the FCAT results had not been adjusted. In your opinion, is there a reasonable explanation for this unfortunate circumstance, Dr. McCormick?
Santa Rosa schools have wonderful schools. We have wonderful teachers. I moved here and brought my children here for that purpose after I retired as president of the community college up in Brewton, Alabama. We have wonderful parents. One of the fortunate things we have in our district, we have many families that are two-parent families. We also, most of our students are not on free and reduced lunch. Those are two of the biggest factors in low FCAT scores. Unfortunately this year, and although a lot of our students did very well, over half of our ninth graders flunked the ninth grade regular algebra end of course exam. That means half of our ninth graders in Santa Rosa County are having to repeat that class next year, or they're coming back with remediation. We lost to Escambia County, and we lost also to Okaloosa County. We made a change last year, my opponent did, in our algebra curriculum, and it caused bad results. Also, too, this year, 7 of our 20 schools dropped to a B or to a C, and all of our high schools now are B schools, which is unfortunate.
All right, thank you, sir. This next question, this first question is now to Mr. Rosdick, and we're asking, in your opinion, is there a reasonable explanation for the unfortunate circumstance that almost half of the district students would not have achieved successful scores on the FCAT if they had not been adjusted?
Thank you, Sandra. The performance of students in Santa Rosa County is at the top of the state once again this year. As we examine FCAT scores, we certainly measure that against one of a very much more rigorous FCAT test, one that of course accommodates for higher test standards and higher proficiency. I certainly think there's some work to be done in the assessment system, both at the state level and local level as we manipulate curriculum. But I think also as well we need to make certain that our assessment system statewide is addressed correctly. Students are performing well in Santa Rosa County and certainly at the top of their peers.
All right, thank you. Our next question will go to Mr. Rosdick first, and it has to do with tenure. Tenure provides a lengthy process for the removal from the classroom an incompetent teacher. Can you suggest an approach to reforming the tenure system?
The tenure system, of course, has been limited to a great deal over the past year with Senate bill and House bills, and certainly a pure tenure system of a permanent contract has been eliminated. I think one of the things that we need to do is focus on quality instruction, what that looks like as we measure teachers and measure administrators against a performance. We certainly want to make certain that we're doing that with great expertise. As we deal proficiently with struggling teachers, paramount and firstmost is that we've got to make certain that we provide a good quality system to support and to undergird our teachers as they move into that process. As we deal with larger standards and more difficult standards, this is going to be extremely important.
All right, thank you. And the question now to you, Dr. McCormick. Can you suggest an approach to reforming the tenure system?
I worked at the junior high school, and college level. I think there's a simple answer to this. When you have a centralized hiring process like our county has developed in the last 4 years, that's a problem. We should decentralize and allow the principals to hire and fire their own staff. As an administrator, the public has not been informed on this. I have fired many teachers that were low performing or poor teachers. You must have authority, though, delegated down to the principals where they have the authority to do that. You bring your teacher in, you put them on alert. If they don't improve, you fire them, you replace them. It is too valuable for our children to have a wonderful teacher to sit back and watch people perform poorly year after year. We don't need state guidance. You don't need a state mandate. All you need is courage and decentralized authority down to the principals.
We have a rebuttal by Mr. Rosdick, 30 seconds.
I think it's important to understand that those principals do have that ability. Each day they sit in classrooms and stand in classrooms and evaluate teachers. And each year they do pair out those teachers that are low performing. Our administrators do a wonderful job and our teachers do as well. And it is important to point out that that ability still rests with an administrator in a classroom.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go on now to question number 3, and it'll go first to you, Mr. McCormick. Can you suggest ways in which the rapid expansion of technological advances can be used in a positive way in the classroom?
I teach the advanced classes for Pensacola State College. I've been doing this for 12 years, either here on campus or at Bar, at Milton, or at Guthries High School. I now work at Guthries High School. We need the highest technology. In our school district, we bought the latest, most modern Blackberries for our administrators. Then we switched to the most modern and expensive iPads for our administrators. Then we just moved to buy the most expensive computer equipment for our maintenance staff. Who was left out? The children were left out. We need to put in our classrooms the most modern equipment. We need to go to digital education. We need to go to digital textbooks. But to do that, you have to cut your administrative and your overhead, and you must spend that money on local classrooms.
All right, thank you very much. And now an opportunity for Mr. Rosdick to respond. Can you suggest ways in which the rapid expansion of technological advances can be used in a positive way in the classroom?
I think we need to embrace that technology. Our students certainly have, our parents certainly have, and every other facet of society certainly has. Over the past 4 years, and as superintendent, I've invested over $8 million of technology in the classroom, and it's important to understand that that is a large sum of money in a time where budgets were being decreased. As we look at technology, it is changing the way students learn, it is changing the way teachers teach. And it is important to share with you that in Santa Rosa County, we have put that technology in the classroom and it's faring very well.
All right, one final question for our Superintendent of Schools candidates, and we will start with you, Mr. Rosdick, with this one. What criteria would you use to provide merit pay for teachers?
Merit pay first needs to begin with a quality assessment system, and quite frankly, in Santa Rosa County and the other 66 counties, we don't have an assessment system that measures student performance that can be then tied to teacher evaluation. Over the past couple of years, I have been adamant about having to have a solid assessment system before we do any type of merit pay. I would not be in favor of moving forward with performance pay or merit pay until we have a good, solid assessment system put into place, and I believe we can get there. It's just going to take some time.
All right, and this question now to Dr. McCormick. What criteria would you use to provide merit pay for teachers?
We should evaluate students on nationally recognized tests like the ACT, the SAT, the California Achievement Test. I'm teaching college classes for Pensacola State College at the high school. I'm being evaluated on students down the hall I've never met, I've never taught. Mr. Rosdick has developed a rating system for our faculty members, which is certainly not based on merit pay. They should base it on how many kids graduate, how many do well in college. Those are all criteria we should do. Follow up on the kids for several years and see how the students are doing. I have been named the State Dean of the Year by the Deans Association. I've been named the President of the State Administrator Associations, and that shows you that I am able to provide leadership to people and gain their respect. And also you have to have reward for teachers. It's got to be a fair system.
All right, thanks to our candidates, and now each of you will have 45 seconds for closing statements, and we will begin this time with Dr. McCormick.
I want to thank you very much and the League of Women Voters for inviting us here tonight. I am a candidate for the Superintendent of Education. I'm the most experienced candidate with 43 years of public schools experience with I've been president of 3 colleges. I'm the most educated. I finished my doctoral program. If you're going to evaluate teachers that have master's and doctorate, you should have one. I also am the most conservative candidate in this race. I'm a member of the Republican Executive Committee, and I work very closely with members of the Republican Party and all the other parties. I would like to remind voters this is an open primary for all Democrats and all Republicans. Please go to McCormick, elect McCormick at www.facebook.com and check out our site. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. And now to Mr. Rosdick for your final statement, your closing statement, 45 seconds.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate the opportunity as well. First and foremost, I would like to thank the educators in Santa Rosa County for a tremendous performance over the past few years. Being ranked number 2 in the state is a consummate testimony to the quality of educators we have in Santa Rosa County. Business partners, parents who take a valid interest. I appreciate the opportunity of leading them. I'm 49 years of age, 28 years of service in Santa Rosa County. I understand the diversity of what this county requires of each community. I understand the intricacies of what it takes to run a school system, and we've been very successful over the past 4 years. This race really is about the continuity of success as we move forward, and I ask for your support August the 14th.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Candidates for Superintendent of Schools in Santa Rosa County. And Drexel, that means we're now headed into the final race of the evening.
We certainly are, and that is the race for Supervisor of Elections in Santa Rosa County. There are 2 Republican candidates and no opposing party candidates, so the winner of the primary race will win the position.
It's time now to meet the candidates, and seated in alphabetical order, they are W.A. Buck Lee, who is from Gulf Breeze. And next to Mr. Lee is Tappy Villain, and she also is from Gulf Breeze. All right, candidates, welcome to Rally 2012.
Sandra and I will be alternating asking you questions this evening. We're going to start with number 1, and we will go in alphabetical order. And question number 1 goes to you first, Mr. Lee. What is your opinion of the current purge of Florida's voter rolls?
I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America, which says that you have to be a citizen of the United States of America to vote, and you need to prove that you're a citizen, and you need a photo ID. The governor of the state of Florida just had the names released by the Department of Homeland Security with the federal government to see if we do have any illegal aliens that are on the voter rolls, and if they are, we need to take them off.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Villain, your opinion, please, this evening on the current purge of Florida's voter rolls.
Well, I too feel that, if someone is not here legally, that they should not be on the voter rolls. Santa Rosa County has not been notified of anyone whose legal or immigration status is in question. So we're very proud of that fact. It is my hope that in the event that counties do have to remove people from the rolls, that the counties are given the proper tools to do so. I think that, people should be removed if they're here illegally. However, we definitely don't want to disenfranchise any voters in doing that. And we want to make sure that we have the proper tools in place to make those critical decisions.
All right, thank you.
All right, our next question, the Florida ID. The Florida ID card, a permitted voter identification, costs $30.50. Please comment on whether you think the state should reduce this fee for those who receive government aid. And Ms. Villain, you get this first.
Okay. The Florida ID, we've been doing this in Florida for a number of years. It really has not been an issue as far as elections are concerned. Every now and then we will have someone who comes into a polling place who does not have their ID with them. They may have simply ridden with a neighbor or a family member, left their ID card or their driver's license at home. They can still vote a ballot. They can vote what we call a provisional ballot, and that ballot just simply does not go into the tabulation piece of equipment. It comes back and is presented before our canvassing board, and then that person has 48 hours to bring that piece of identification to the elections office to prove they are who they say they are. But we just simply have not seen that to be an issue in the elections office.
All right, the same question to Mr. Lee. Do you think the state should reduce the cost, the $31.50 cost for a Florida ID for those who receive government aid?
I don't know how they came up with $31.50, but it seems people are able to pay it. I know my wife went to renew her driver's license back in April. She had to go back and get a birth certificate, so she had to mail off or email. They sent her a birth certificate. That cost a few dollars. Then she went back. She had to go to Escambia County to get her Social Security card. So then she came back, and she was able to get her voter ID card, or driver's license, to serve as a voter ID card. Sure, it costs some money, it costs some days, but it's well worth it to make sure that we follow the Constitution and that we have U.S. citizens voting.
All right, thank you. This question goes first to you, Mr. Lee. There is no incumbent in this office this election. What changes, if any, would you enact in the Office of Supervisor of Elections?
Well, you have the supervisor that's retiring, plus you have two other employees. They have 35 years each. They're both in the drop program, and they're both going to be leaving in a couple of years. In fact, one of them's the second in command. It's the Deputy Supervisor of Elections. So the problem that I'm going to be facing is hiring good people to take these ladies' places, because they've been there a long time and hardworking. But in my experience, both in the Buick dealership and with the Santa Rosa Island Authority, I know how to go out and hire good people that offer good customer service, that are honest, and that they help every way they can.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee. And Ms. Villain, with no incumbent in this office, what changes do you anticipate that you would make in the Office of the Supervisor of Elections?
Well, as my opponent just said, we will be facing some staff changes. We will have 2 people. They will not be leaving until May of 2015. We do have a small office. There's 6 of us that work in the office when we have about a little over 120,000 voters in the county. We all work together. We all work to get the job done. We're cross-trained to do each other's jobs. So when these people do retire in a couple of years, we do have qualified people who have the elections experience and can move into these more advanced positions. I think this is more of a reason why people should elect someone who is currently in the office, has the day-to-day working knowledge of what goes on in the office, is prepared as far as planning is concerned, not only short-term planning, but also long-term planning for the future of elections in the county.
All right, our next question. What is your opinion of a recent state survey which included ranking of the supervisor of elections throughout the state? And Ms. Villain, you first.
Well, Santa Rosa County was very proud in that survey. We were actually ranked #1 based on the recent survey they did in the presidential preference. And again, we have a small office. We all work together to get the job done. It's that #1 ranking was very important to us. But it doesn't just take the people in our office to get the job done. It takes the poll workers that work with us and the people that help us out both election day and election night. And so we're very proud to have those folks with us and that they share in our same commitment to excellence.
And that question now to Mr. Lee. What is your opinion of a recent state survey which included the ranking of the supervisor of elections throughout the state?
I think it's great. Like Tappy says, we have 6 employees in there. We got 2 that are leaving. I differ with her that unfortunately we have one lady that's been there 16 years, but she does accounts payable, and the other 3 have been there 8 years, 7 years, 6 years. I do believe in hiring from within if they're qualified. These are young people, but they're great people, but it's going to take somebody with more experience coming in there to run it and to keep it #1 in the state.
All right, we have a rebuttal. Ms. Villain.
And I do just want to state again that we do have very qualified people. The only way that you can get to be qualified in the elections office is to simply work an election. We have a number of people who have been there for a number of years, have worked in a variety of different elections, from special elections all the way to presidential elections. And it's very important to have that experience in this office.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, question number 5 now, and I think I've lost track here. We're starting with Miss Villain.
Okay. We don't know.
Okay.
You were keeping track.
Well, I'm keeping track. Okay, I'm not doing such a good job of that right now. We need to detail specific activities, please, if you would, that you would initiate and promote in an effort to increase voter registration. And we start with you, Mr. Lee.
All right. Good. Well, one of the things I want to do, and as part of my campaign brochure, as supervisor, I want to go out and not only talk to civic and community groups about the importance of voting, but I want to go out and talk to the young people in the schools. When I registered to vote when I was 21 years old, and I've never missed an election, if we can get our young people coming out and voting at an early age, it becomes a habit, it becomes a great habit. And so that's what I want to do, is go out and get the young people voting. Also, I want to do, I've been in retail, as you know, for many, many years. We have a thing called the Customer Service Index, CSI, which tells you how you're doing with your customers. Luckily, when I was in retail, we ran about 98% satisfied. And I want to do the same thing in the supervisor's office to let them fill out a card. How did we do? And then if we didn't do well, call them and find out how we can improve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee. And Ms. Villain, some steps that you would take to promote and increase voter registration.
I think also going into the schools, which we currently do, and holding voter registration drives is important. We do it with the high schools and also with the local colleges here. However, I also think working with our third parties that are registered with the state, because they go out and they see a variety of different people. And it's not just to find new voters, it's also for people to change their party, to update their signatures, which we have a lot of elderly people do. Maybe ladies who have gotten married need to change their name, people who simply need to change their address. These people are very important to us, and I think it's good to maintain a good relationship with these folks.
All right, thanks to our candidates for Supervisor of Election, and they each now have an opportunity for closing statements, and they have 45 seconds, and we begin with you, Ms. Villain, with your closing statement.
Well, I am Tappy Villain. I have 11 years of elections experience. I've worked in 22 elections, all here in Santa Rosa County, all under the direction of our current Supervisor of Elections, Ann Bodenstein. I am the only candidate in this race who has been a poll worker. I am also the only candidate in this race who has and is currently working at the elections office. I feel that based on this experience and my qualifications, I am the best candidate for this job. And so whether it be you vote by absentee, you early vote, or you simply go to your polling place on Election Day, which is August 14th, please remember the name, vote Tappy Villain for your next Supervisor of Elections.
All right, thank you. And now to you, Mr. Lee, for your closing statement in 45 seconds, please.
Thank you. I had a friend of mine send me this. He's a former supervisor of elections, and he said, Buck, the citizens of Santa Rosa County deserve in their next supervisor someone who will ensure open, honest, and fair elections, someone who is known to the community, someone who can be entrusted with perhaps the most important public service job in local government, someone with a long, proven track record of service to our community. I am that someone. I'm Buck Lee, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you to both of our candidates for Supervisor of Elections in Santa Rosa County. And Sandra, that's going to do it for the second night of Rally 2012. We do have one more night of exciting primary election coverage coming up.
And tomorrow night, we will meet candidates for several state races. Also, candidates for seats in Escambia County will be here in our WSRE studios.
We certainly hope that you will join us again right here on WSRE TV as we continue with Rally 2012. Our thanks to the League of Women Voters for their participation in this program.
Please join us again tomorrow night, 7 p.m.